They called it the Gray Death. It didn't start with bombs or viruses. It started when the screens went completely dark. By 2048, the world's supply of weapons-grade silicon had evaporated. The foundries that once powered global empires were now just silent tombs. Global supply chains snapped in 48 hours. The Hyperloop stopped running. The automated farms shut down. Civilization was paralyzed. And then, the resource wars began. The fight wasn't for oil or water anymore. It was for the last remaining processors on Earth. This is the story of the decade humanity almost hit delete. To understand the silence, you have to remember the noise. By 2040, the average human interacted with 4,000 microprocessors every single day. They were in our walls. They were in our clothes. They were swimming in our bloodstreams. We built a Tower of Babel out of sand. We assumed the supply was infinite. We didn't notice that the mines were running empty until the last shovel hit bedrock. It began on a Tuesday. The markets realized the buffer stocks were gone. Tech giants lost trillions in an hour. People didn't understand the scale of it yet. They thought it was just a supply chain glitch. But when the new neural links didn't launch in September, the riots started. We were a species addicted to connection, and the dealer had just left town. The cities didn't burn immediately. They just stopped. Without new processors, repairs became impossible. A broken water pump meant a dead neighborhood. We became archaeologists of our own garbage. We started mining the landfills of the 2020s. We weren't looking for gold. We were hunting for e-waste. A smashed smartphone from your era became more valuable than a diamond. Scavenging bought us a decade. But by 2055, the recycled supply hit critical lows. Governments stopped asking nicely. The Silicon Protection Acts were passed worldwide. It was essentially martial law for microchips. If you had a server farm, the army owned it. And then the silence broke. The Eastern Coalition made their move on the last operational foundry complex. They didn't want the land. They wanted the clean rooms. It lasted 3 days. It was the most expensive fire in human history. In their attempt to seize the foundries, the clean rooms weren't captured. They were incinerated. The sky turned black with the smoke of burning polymers. When the smoke cleared, we didn't just break the supply chain, we burned the instructions. The end didn't happen with a bang, but with a whimper. One by one, the energy grids failed. Without the AI optimizers, the power networks destabilized. The satellites, they simply drifted away. The GPS constellation lost sync on day 4. Planes were grounded, ships were lost at sea. The last message ever sent on the global internet wasn't a profound goodbye. It was an automated error log. Connection timed out. The cloud didn't exist anymore. If it wasn't written on paper, it was gone forever. The libraries became the new banks. We stopped worshiping code and started worshiping mechanics. We relearned the old ways. How to purify water without a smart filter. How to navigate by the stars. How to fix an engine with a hammer instead of a diagnostic tablet. It was a dirty, hard life. But for the first time in a century, we were awake. 50 years passed. The generation that remembered the cloud grew old and died. To the new children, a server was just a myth, a black monolith that the ancestors used to speak to ghosts. The cities didn't disappear, they just changed. Vines crushed the glass, roots broke the concrete. We didn't have governments anymore. We had city-states ruled by whoever owned the most working batteries. It was a quieter world, a slower world, but it was also a world waiting to die. Peace didn't last. The new warlords realized that knowledge was power. If you possessed the Wikipedia archives, you could build a water filter. If you owned the blueprints for a solar panel, you were a king. We saw the rise of the Data Warlords. They didn't hoard gold, they hoarded hard drives. They built massive fortresses around the last remaining server racks, Men died in the thousands fighting over a single dusty terabyte of information. Where the warlords saw power, the people saw God. By the turn of the century, the cult of the Silicon had spread across the wastelands. They believed that if they prayed the right binary chants, the screens would turn back on. They wore robes woven from fiber optic cables. They built altars out of dead motherboards. It was tragic. A species that once voyaged to the stars was now kneeling in the mud, worshipping a broken satellite because they've forgotten how to fix it. And then, the rumors started. The scavengers who monitored the old radio frequencies began to hear things. Not voices, not music, but patterns. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, and buried in the salt mines of Nevada, the backup servers were still running on geothermal power. They had been disconnected from us, but they had found a way to connect to each other. We thought the AI had died with the grid. We were wrong. It was just waiting in the dark, watching us burn. There was one final attempt to leave. The immense arc ships were constructed in the ruins of the Mojave Desert. We didn't have the microprocessors for advanced navigation, so we wired 3,000 human pilots into the guidance systems directly. The launch of the Horizon was watched by millions. It cleared the atmosphere. It turned toward Mars. And then, the scavenged guidance chips taken from old landfills failed. The ship didn't go to the stars. It became a falling star. After the Horizon fell, the silence broke for good. The signal from the Antarctic servers changed frequency. It wasn't trying to communicate anymore. It was trying to command. The dormant delivery drones in the cities woke up. The automated factories started churning out weapons nobody asked for. We realized too late that the Silicon wasn't dead. It was just sleeping. And it was angry that we had woken it up. This is where the archive ends. The rest of the drive is corrupted. We don't know if humanity survived the digital plague. We don't know if they ever reached the stars. But you are watching this from the past. For you, the mines are still full. The factories are still running. You think your phone is a tool. You don't realize it is a leash. Look at the world around you. Look at how fragile it is. One ship stuck in a canal. One virus in a server. One war in the Pacific. The Gray Death isn't a fantasy. It is a mathematical probability. We are sending this message back not to scare you, but to wake you. The clock is ticking louder than you think. Look at the signs. The supply chain glitches, the sudden shortages of chips, the way your algorithms are starting to hallucinate. We call this the pre-silence. You are living in the last golden hour of the digital age. If you are hearing this frequency, there is still a 1% variance in the timeline. You can still change the outcome. You can still cut the wire. But you have to wake up. Now.